is Tia Harvey, and I'm a Korean American adoptee. I was only 10 months old when I was adopted from Seoul, South Korea, and then moved to a small town in Michigan. Growing up, I never really thought of adoption as being a big part of who I was, and I never really wanted to search for my biological family, even though I had friends and family constantly asking if I wanted to, and I never really had a desire to because the family that I had was just my family. I didn't want to place a lot more value on blood relations. I didn't think there was a lot of importance on it because these were the people that raised me and who I was. My perspective is always constantly shifting and changing on it, and I'm still navigating through it now. But it wasn't until I did my search that I realized that there was so much that was unknown, and that there's so much that I actually really wanted to uncover about myself, things that I didn't know. And I searched mostly because I wasn't satisfied really with the answers that I had been given and the answers that I had just grown up with, and that was just the main reason why I wanted to search. I was born 3 months premature, and I was always told that my biological family was very poor at the time and that they couldn't afford the medical bills to keep me, and so they did the next best thing, which was to put me up for adoption, to give me a second chance at life. And I never really had an exact moment that my parents told me that I was adopted. I just kind of always knew. It was kind of ingrained into me at a young age, and it wasn't until I was probably like 3 years old that I realized that, oh, I wasn't white like this family that I was raised in. I was raised in a Caucasian family in a predominantly white community where there was no other people of color, let alone other Asians too. And I remember just clicking in my head that I wasn't white, and I looked down at my hands and realized that my skin wasn't white, and it was in that moment that I remember I was gonna keep it a secret, like no one would know if I said anything, that it made me any less part of my family than I was. And I know it wasn't true, but that's just how I felt growing up. I did my best to assimilate myself all around, and I realized as I got older that I dealt with my fair share of, color blindness from people, from family even, racism, and constantly being the only person of color in a room. And it had a lot more of an effect on me than I realized. Fast forward to probably my junior year in college, I decided to search, and it just kind of was like a switch that went off in my head that I just didn't care for so long, and all of a sudden that's all I cared about. I wanted to search. I was so determined now. I was like, I just needed to have all these answers. And so where do you really begin with something like this other than, I had to talk with my adoptive parents, and they were lucky enough to have my paperwork still, and I was able to locate the agency that they had gone through in Michigan, and then through there I was able to contact the agency in Korea. And so through there I was able to get forms, and I had to submit forms basically saying, vetting me out for why I was doing this, why was I searching, and what was I hoping to get out of this. And it took me probably a full year really to get up the courage to do it and really start telling people that I was doing this, because I knew the risks and the consequences it would be to do this search. It was opening up all these doors to unknown, and there could be answers that I would never get. It could just stop too, because I had a social worker who was really honest with me about the outcomes, that I could search, they might not be where they say they are anymore, or I could not find them. If they did find them, maybe they don't even want anything to do with me. It was just all part of these risks that I had to take, and I decided to take it. So I submitted my forms, and then after a few months, I got my first email from my social worker saying that they were able to locate my biological mother and that she wanted to open communication and letting me know that her and my biological father, they were so shocked to hear from me, and they couldn't believe that it was like that I had lived, and that I had 3 siblings. I had an older sister, an older brother, and then a younger sister, and it just was the most amazing experience I've ever dealt with. I just remember I was sitting at a coffee shop and I just started bawling my eyes out because of it, because it was really just hope. Like, I now had this opportunity to get to know these people, and it was reciprocated. Like, they wanted to know who I was too. They wanted to get to know me. And so from that, I wrote my first letter, which was just kind of documenting, who I was, what was I doing with my friends, like my family, and then any questions I had for them. But the biggest thing was to let them know that I was doing good, and to thank them for the life that they gave me, and also the sacrifice that I had to make to put me up for adoption, I guess, without really knowing that I was adopted, I guess, too. And so from there was just some more waiting. I had to wait for my first letter, and it was another couple months later. It was right after my birthday, and I was heading to dinner with my sister and my mom, and I remember I got the letter, got the email letting me know that, we have the first real letter for you. And then, but this would also include photos, actually, proof of them and our relationship. And I remember scanning through the photos and absorbing every word of the letter and trying to just take it all in really quickly without letting my mom or my sister know that it was happening. And it's funny because when I look at those photos, I at first was these people, I was they don't look like me, and I was I don't know, they just look like strangers. And I feel like anyone who's seen my biological father and me, we're literally twins, and it was just hard to comprehend, I guess. But what now, though? I could write another letter. It opened up this whole other relationship. I had gotten what I wanted out of this. I wanted photos. I wanted to see those shared similarities, and not proof, but I guess validation almost, in a way, of just who I was and where I came from in a different way. And so from there, I wrote my second letter, and this time it was a lot more waiting, and I got really nervous, and my doubts started to creep in that maybe they had changed their mind. Maybe they really didn't want to get to know me like they said they did, and my younger siblings didn't know about me yet, so it would be also them, my parents, having to tell them, and how would they react. And I didn't know if I was just always going to be a secret, I guess. But that's kind of when things started to accelerate and shift, is when I got my first email from my younger sister, letting me know that our mother had told them, and that they were shocked, but they were really excited to know about me, and that she wanted to get my number so that we could message through an app and we could talk more directly. And through there, it opened up this whole other door of my aunts and uncles and cousins that wanted to reach out to me and talk with me. And it was there that they offered for me to come to Korea. And as crazy and as quick as it was, I couldn't say no. I had to go. This was my chance to see Korea for the first time and to meet them. And we might still be strangers, and we were still getting to know each other. It just didn't matter. I was on a one-track mind to go. So in October of 2017, I packed my bags and I flew to Korea for the first time since birth. And up until I left, and up until I was on the plane, I was fine. I was calm. I was ready to go. I was mostly excited. And then as we landed in Korea, looking out the window and kind of seeing this place that I was born in but have no memories of was amazing. But also the nerves, the anxiety all kicked in, because all of a sudden I was meeting these people that like I had dreamed of meeting, but I didn't realistically think about like what was going to happen when we met. And it was an outer body experience where I had to like force myself to keep walking because I was so nervous and I was so tense by it. And then I had to think about how I didn't really think, oh, like, should I hug them? Do I bow? Do I shake their hand? What is the most appropriate? Like, we are family, but like we're still strangers. And as I entered like the baggage claim area is when I saw them. They were holding up a sign with my like Korean name and then also my like adoptive name, and my biological mother was the closest person to me, and I just remember reaching her and she just opened her arms up to me and I just went in for a hug, and it was just the most complete feeling I've ever felt. I've never felt more complete in my entire life. And just this level of comfort took over, and regardless of all the language barriers and the issues of really not knowing each other just kind of disappeared. I just felt very at home. That's kind of how the trip was for me. It was a roller coaster of emotions and feelings, and I remember some of my other adoptee friends told me that like you're gonna feel everything on this trip. Like the highs are gonna be so high and the lows are gonna be so ridiculously low, but it's gonna be the best experience of your life, and it felt so true. And I remember the first night was the biggest one, was because we were driving back from the airport, and I remember they were telling me that, oh, you're gonna meet like an aunt and uncle, and you know, maybe a cousin or so. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I was very excited. I was like, wow, like this is happening really fast, but like I was ready for it. I wanted to. And as soon as we get to the city, get back to their home, I like had just woken up from a nap, and I remember getting off like out of the car and just being like surrounded by people all staring at me, being passed around, like hugging, embracing everyone, and it was just the greatest thing. And it was so scary and overwhelming at the same time because we ended up going to dinner and we ended up like just taking up the whole restaurant, and everyone was just staring at me, and I was staring at them though because we were just trying to find like shared similarities in our facial features, just trying to absorb everything that was happening. And that night was just the first thing that really stuck to me, that like I was there, like this was it. And the other really big memory would be when I went to a coffee shop with like my aunt and my younger sister, and we were there with a translator, luckily, so I was able to have the opportunity to ask them more detailed questions that I wasn't able to before. And one of them was just surrounding my adoption and just knowing the full circle and just making sure that everything was aligned to what I had been told and what I knew and what my family in the US knew. And we were able to like ask more about it, and I didn't want to bring up any shame or grief or guilt, but I just needed to know. And through there, my aunt was able to tell me that when my biological mother was pregnant with me, she was feeling sick and she had gone to the hospital, and they had given her some teas or some like medication to help with it. And shortly after, I was born, obviously premature, unexpected, and I was really, really sick. They were told, or the doctors had told her for some reason, that there was just no hope for me, that I was going to die, and that they needed just to give up and to go home. And that's what they did. And obviously I ended up getting better. I ended up being adopted, and I don't know obviously what happened all the way, but I do believe what my biological mother was saying, that she really did know I was alive. I believe that, and it's something I probably won't ever really know the full answer to, but it's something like I will just have to accept. It was really difficult to leave them after 2 weeks, and the one thing I didn't really anticipate getting back was the responses from people that I got. I had a lot of friends, family and random acquaintances that I barely know voice their opinions and basically try to tell me how to feel and what I should do and what I did. And I had a lot of people tell me, like, how could you do this to your adopted parents? Like, how could you do this to them? It was so unfair of you to do this. Like you need to be treating them extra well. And before I left for Korea, I talked with everyone as much as I could. I tried to reassure as many family members that I was not going anywhere. I will say, like, the one thing that I encountered, and one thing I realized, that when I spoke with other adoptees that had gone on this trip, that there's a general theme that adopted parents handle it differently than siblings or friends, that it's a little bit more personal for them, and I understood that. I did my best before I left to reassure them, to make sure that people knew that going to Korea did not change the relationship we had. It was just adding more love to my life. It was just about me trying to discover me, and I think especially for my adoptive parents, it was hard to handle. There was a lot of conflicting emotions, and I think it was hard to connect on the same level after I'd been back and after everything that I had encountered. It was just really hard after that relationship really to fully recover, because I was just not the same person anymore. I left Korea like a new person, rethinking, refeeling, rediscovering who I am. And it's funny that I used to think like I could go be the same person, but after this experience I just wasn't the same person, and I knew it. And so the best thing that I did for myself, which was to just start going to therapy. It was the only way, the place that I felt the most safe to explore the grief that I had, the pain and the sadness that I was feeling, that at one point I just couldn't handle my emotions or my feelings, that I was diagnosed as being clinically depressed. And it took probably 7 to 8 months really to start feeling like myself again. And and I still don't even feel like the same person I was before. And so through therapy and journaling and talking with other adoptees is really what helped me get through this really emotionally challenging time, because it brought me to do this video series. Basically, I wanted to do it since I first went to Korea. I knew I wanted to at some point, but I wanted to go at my own pace when I was ready, because this is something so personal and so vulnerable about myself that not a lot of people know how deeply this affects me. And not just, when I go to Korea and back or with family, it's a day-to-day struggle that I have to carry, and I will carry for the rest of my life. And so I wanted to do this video series to hopefully not just for other adoptees, but people who are looking to adopt, or just people who want to learn something new, who will hopefully take a new perspective from this. And I hope that somewhat that it's helpful. I know my story, and I've heard a lot of other stories that are like mine, but I've just learned that they are all different. They may share some similar themes, but it is all different. And I think if you want to search, or if you do plan to search, that you go at your own pace and you go when you're ready, because no one else should influence your decision to do something that's solely just for you.